They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, but sometimes what's missing from the picture tells the real story. Every year, without fail, my family holds a little tradition: the perfect family photo. It doesn't matter if it's Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, or even the 4th of July, my parents are obsessed with projecting this image of us as the flawless, smiling, happy family. The photo gets printed, framed, and shared across every social media platform with captions like "blessed" or "family first." I used to love these photos when I was little. I thought they meant something. I thought they captured love. But as I got older, I started noticing something strange. I didn't always make the final cut. Sometimes I was pushed to the edge of the frame. Other times, my smile didn't fit the mood, so the photo got retaken without me. It was subtle at first, easy to explain away, but deep down, it always left a sting. This year was supposed to be different. I spent the whole morning getting ready for the annual family photo. I chose a dress I knew my mom liked, curled my hair, even put on the necklace my grandmother once gave me. For once, I wanted to feel like I belonged. When it was finally time to gather, I walked into the living room with a nervous smile. Everyone was already there: my parents, my siblings, even cousins who'd flown in from out of state. The photographer, a friend of my dad's, was adjusting the lighting while everyone positioned themselves on the couch. I walked over, ready to squeeze in beside my sister. That's when my father's hand shot out, blocking me. "Not this year," he said flatly. I froze, confused. "What?" "You don't deserve to be in the family photo," my mom added, her tone sharp but calm, like she was stating an undeniable fact. For a moment, I thought they were joking. A cruel joke, sure, but still a joke. I forced a laugh. "Very funny. Now move over. I'll sit." "No." My dad's voice was final. "Step aside." The room went quiet. My cousins exchanged awkward glances. My sister smirked like she'd been waiting for this moment. And me? I felt my heart plummet. I wanted to scream, to ask why, to demand even a shred of decency. But the words caught in my throat. Instead, I stepped back, my face burning, my body trembling. The camera clicked, the smiles flashed, and I stood just a few feet away, watching the perfect family photo come to life without me in it. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just stood there, invisible, erased, as if I was never part of this family to begin with. What they didn't know was that I had something they couldn't erase, something I'd been keeping for years. And later that night, when I finally showed it, the silence in that room was louder than any scream I'd ever heard. After the photo, life in the house moved on as if nothing had happened. My parents laughed with the photographer, complimented everyone else on how good they looked, and then headed to the dining room. The smell of roasted turkey and honey-glazed carrots filled the air, but to me, everything tasted like ash. No one acknowledged the fact that I'd been left standing off to the side. Not one person said, "Hey, wait, aren't we missing someone?" Not even my cousins, who looked at me with wide eyes before quickly averting their gaze, like they didn't want to get caught sympathizing. I followed them into the dining room, plate in hand. I tried to find a seat, but the long dining table was already full, chairs filled, laughter spilling across the table like I didn't exist. There was one empty chair, but just as I reached for it, my cousin slid into it with a grin. My uncle, without missing a beat, pointed toward the kitchen. "You can eat in there," he said. The words stung worse than the rejection from the photo. It wasn't just exclusion anymore, it was exile. I stood there for a moment, holding my plate, my cheeks burning. No one argued, no one defended me. They just kept passing dishes, telling jokes, and raising glasses like I wasn't part of the celebration. So I did what I always do. I stayed quiet. I forced a smile, nodded, and carried my plate into the kitchen. The clatter of laughter behind me echoed like a cruel reminder that I was on the outside looking in. I sat at the small kitchen table, alone. The light flickered above me, and I could hear every word from the dining room, the jokes, the toasts, the sound of cameras snapping more photos. Each laugh felt like a nail being hammered deeper into my chest. I picked at my food, not really tasting it. My hands shook as I scrolled through my phone, and then, without even meaning to, I opened my gallery. My heart thudded when I saw it again. The photo. The one I'd saved years ago. The one that showed the truth. I had always told myself I'd never use it, that it was too harsh, too dangerous, that no one would believe me anyway. But at that moment, sitting in the kitchen, while my family paraded their fake happiness just a room away, something inside me shifted. I realized I didn't want to be part of their perfect little lie anymore. I finished my meal in silence, washed my plate, and went up to my room. The muffled sounds of laughter and clinking glasses followed me up the stairs, but I shut the door and locked it. Then I sat on my bed, opened my laptop, and pulled up the photo one more time. My finger hovered over the keyboard. My breath came fast and shaky. I wasn't sure if I was about to make the biggest mistake of my life or finally take back control of it. I couldn't sleep that night. The voices from downstairs carried through the walls, the sound of wine glasses clinking, my parents bragging about the perfect family photo, the fake cheer and everyone's laughter. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the glow of my laptop still illuminating the room. My finger hovered over the trackpad, the image of that other photo frozen on the screen. It wasn't just a picture. It was evidence, proof. A reminder of the day I realized exactly where I stood in this family. I was 14 when it happened. It was supposed to be my birthday party. Nothing extravagant, just a barbecue in the backyard. A few balloons, and the usual family members crowded around. I remember standing there, holding the knife, ready to cut my cake. But my mom stopped me. "Wait," she said brightly. "We need to get a picture first." Everyone gathered, smiling, crowding around the cake. I stood in the middle, grinning nervously, ready for my big moment. But then my dad frowned. "Actually, why don't you step to the side? You're blocking the cake." At first, I thought he was joking, but then my sister giggled and pulled me out of the way. Suddenly, I was at the very edge of the group, barely in the frame. I remember my uncle muttering, "Much better," as the flash went off. And then came the second photo, the one no one thought I noticed. My mom whispered to the photographer, "Take one without her, just in case." I froze. My smile collapsed. And I watched them all pose, cheerful and perfect, while I stood a few feet away, holding the knife that was supposed to cut my own cake. Later that night, while everyone was distracted, I borrowed my dad's camera. I scrolled through the shots until I found it. The photo without me. My entire family smiling as if I'd never existed. My mom's hand still on my sister's shoulder, my dad's arm around my brother, everyone glowing in the summer light. And me, gone. Erased. Something inside me broke that day. But I didn't delete it. I didn't scream. I just copied the file onto a USB stick and hid it away like a secret weapon. Over the years, I almost forgot about it. Almost. But sometimes, when I felt invisible-like, when my parents forgot to pick me up from school, or when my sister wore my dress without asking and no one cared, or when my uncle made jokes at my expense that no one defended me from, I'd pull out that photo, and it would remind me that my feelings weren't imagined, that the neglect was real. And now, years later, here I was again. Excluded, pushed aside, erased from the family photo all over again. Only this time, I wasn't 14. I wasn't powerless. I had the photo. And if they wanted to erase me from their picture-perfect world, maybe it was finally time I showed them what their picture really looked like. The cursor blinked on my laptop screen, almost taunting me. My hands trembled as I hovered over the keyboard, the old photo staring back at me like a ghost from the past. I could hear the faint sounds of celebration still echoing downstairs. My parents laughing, my sister shrieking at some inside joke, my uncle's booming voice as he poured himself another drink. They had no idea what I was holding in my hands. For years, I told myself I'd never use it, that keeping that photo saved was childish, even pathetic. But tonight, after being humiliated again, pushed aside like I didn't matter, I realized something. Maybe I wasn't saving it out of spite. Maybe I'd been saving it for survival. For this moment, I opened a new post on social media. My finger hovered as I tried to find the right words. Should I explain everything? Should I pour out all the years of neglect, all the little moments of cruelty that had chipped away at me piece by piece? Or should I let the photo speak for itself? I stared at the smiling faces. My mom, my dad, my siblings, everyone beaming with joy. Everyone perfectly posed. Everyone except me, because I wasn't there. I typed slowly, my pulse racing with each word. Funny how this family loves to post their perfect photos every year. Here's one you never saw. My birthday, my cake, but apparently not my family. My throat tightened as I reread it. Was this too harsh? Too bitter? Would people even care? But then I remembered the look on my sister's face earlier that night when she smirked at me as my parents told me I didn't deserve to be in the photo. I remembered my uncle's dismissive wave toward the kitchen. I remembered the way everyone stayed silent, complicit, when I was excluded in front of them all. No, this wasn't too harsh. It was the truth. I attached the photo. My finger hovered over the post button. For a second, I imagined what would happen next. My mom's furious phone call, my dad's denial, my cousin's whispers. I almost backed out. I almost deleted everything and pretended none of it had happened. But then I thought about 14-year-old me, standing alone at her own birthday party, watching her family erase her from her own memory. I owed her something, so I pressed publish. The screen refreshed. The post was live. At first, nothing happened. My phone sat silent on the bed. I exhaled, half relieved, half terrified. Maybe no one would even notice. Maybe it would just disappear into the void of the internet, like most posts do. But then, just as I was about to close the laptop, my phone buzzed. One notification, then another, and then the buzzing didn't stop. My heart raced as I watched the numbers climb. Likes, comments, shares. The photo was spreading, fast. I barely slept that night. Every time my phone buzzed, my eyes would snap open. Notifications poured in like waves crashing against the shore, first a trickle, then a flood. By dawn, I finally drifted off for maybe an hour. When I opened my eyes again, the pale morning light was slipping through my curtains. My phone was still buzzing, vibrating restlessly on the nightstand. I reached for it with shaky hands. 312 unread messages, over 500 new followers, dozens of friend requests. My throat went dry. I opened the post. The number hit me like a punch. 18,432 likes. Hundreds of comments stacked one after the other, all from strangers who had no idea who I was, but somehow they saw me. This broke my heart. No child deserves this. You deserve better than them. I'm so sorry. This picture says everything. Stay strong. Some even shared their own stories about being the forgotten sibling, the scapegoat, the invisible one. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel alone. And yet, the rush of validation was tangled with a sick twist in my stomach. Because beneath the support of strangers came the messages from people I actually knew. Old classmates I hadn't spoken to in years were tagging each other, commenting, "Wait, isn't this my last name's family? OMG." My stomach sank deeper. If they knew, then my family definitely knew. I didn't have to wait long for confirmation. At 9:12 a.m., my family group chat exploded. First, my mom. "What is this? Delete it right now." Then my sister. Are you out of your mind? You're making us look like monsters. My dad chimed in minutes later. Take it down. We'll talk about this privately. But I didn't reply. My hands were shaking too badly. Because the notifications weren't stopping. The story was spreading. People were sharing my post, captioning it with things like, "This is why mental health matters," and "The things families hide behind smiles." Someone even wrote, "This needs to go viral. This girl deserves justice." I sat frozen on the bed, staring at the screen, as the number of shares climbed into the thousands. And then my cousin messaged me privately, "You need to delete it. Now. You don't understand what you've started." I read it 3 times, my pulse thudding in my ears. What did she mean? Before I could even type a response, another notification flashed across my screen. This one wasn't a comment or a like. It was a direct message request from a journalist. They wanted to talk. I dropped the phone onto my bed and buried my face in my hands. What had I done? By noon, my phone hadn't stopped buzzing for a single second. It was overwhelming. Every vibration felt like a heartbeat I couldn't control, louder and louder, until I wanted to throw the phone across the room. The post had crossed 50,000 shares. People I had never met were stitching together threads about toxic families, attaching my photo as Exhibit A. Others were making TikToks about it, their voices full of anger on my behalf. But while strangers were embracing my story, my family was falling apart. The group chat had turned into chaos. Mom, delete it before people from church see it. You're humiliating us. Sister, do you enjoy being the victim? You're pathetic. Dad, take it down now or don't bother coming home for Christmas. I stared at their words, my chest tightening. They weren't even denying it. Not once did they say, "That's not true." Instead, they were just terrified of people finding out. And that told me everything I needed to know. A sharp knock startled me. I froze. Then another, louder this time. I tiptoed to the window and peeked outside. My uncle's truck was parked at the curb. My stomach dropped. The knocking turned into pounding. His voice bellowed through the door. "Open up! We need to talk!" I stepped back, my hands trembling. I didn't move. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed again this time, with a video message from my cousin. Her face was pale, her voice panicked. "What are you doing? Reporters are calling my dad. He's freaking out. You're ruining everything." Ruining everything. The words echoed in my head. But wasn't that what they had done to me? Years of quiet erasure, little humiliations, constant reminders that I wasn't good enough. Now, suddenly, the world saw what I had seen all along. And they hated it. The calls kept coming, my mom, my dad, even relatives I barely knew. I silenced the phone, but it kept buzzing in my hand like a trapped insect. At one point, my sister left me a voicemail. Her voice was shrill, almost desperate. "You don't understand what you've done. Delete it before it's too late." Too late for what? I wanted to feel powerful, vindicated, and in a way I did. But beneath it all was fear. Not of strangers or the internet, but of my family. Because I knew them. I knew how far they'd go to protect their perfect image. That night, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I sat alone in my room, my phone buzzing relentlessly beside me. I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about a photo anymore. This was a war. And the first shot had already been fired. By the next morning, the silence outside my window was almost eerie compared to the storm brewing on my phone. The post had crossed 1 million views. People were stitching together their own family horror stories under the hashtag #InvisibleChild. Strangers were calling me brave. Influencers were weighing in, praising me for speaking truth to power. But inside my family chat, it was pure fire. My mom, "You're destroying our reputation. Do you think employers, neighbors, everyone we know won't see this?" My dad, "If you don't delete it, there will be consequences. Legal consequences." I froze at that one. Legal? Could they actually sue me for posting my own photo? My hands shook as I read the next message. Uncle, you've embarrassed us enough. You need to apologize publicly, or you're finished with this family. Finished with the family, as if I hadn't been finished a long time ago. But then came the message that sent chills crawling down my spine. It was from my dad again, short and sharp. We can play this game too. I didn't understand at first. Then, a few hours later, I did. Someone sent me a screenshot. My parents had dug up old, embarrassing photos of me, ones I'd begged them never to share, and they'd posted them with captions like, "Don't believe everything you see online. She's always been dramatic." It felt like a punch in the gut. Not only were they refusing to acknowledge what they'd done, they were trying to flip the narrative, to paint me as the villain. The comments under their posts were mixed. Some family friends rushed to defend them, but others, strangers who had seen my original post, started calling them out. Even this response shows how little compassion you have. Imagine shaming your own daughter online instead of apologizing. The war had officially gone public. That night, I sat on my bed staring at my phone, my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear my own thoughts. Then, a new notification popped up. A journalist had written back, "Your story matters. If you're ready, we'd like to feature it." I stared at the message until my vision blurred. This was bigger than I'd ever imagined. It wasn't just about one photo anymore. It was about telling the truth, loud enough that no one could silence me. But the more the world listened, the angrier my family became. And deep down, I knew. The next move they made could change everything. Because if they felt like they were losing control, they wouldn't just get loud. They'd get dangerous. The article went live on a Wednesday morning. It was short, almost simple, just a retelling of what I had posted, with the photo at the center of it all. But it was enough. Enough to make it real. Enough to push the story from viral gossip into the public eye. By noon, my name was trending locally. People I hadn't spoken to in years were tagging me on Facebook, sending me screenshots saying, "Is this you?" My phone was a storm of notifications. Supportive strangers, curious classmates, some people I used to call friends, and of course, my family. The group chat had gone silent for a few hours. Too silent. And then, out of nowhere, a single message from my mom. "We're coming over." My blood ran cold. Not long after I heard it. The crunch of tires outside my house. Then voices, footsteps, a loud, insistent knock at the door. I froze in place, clutching my phone like a weapon. "Open this door!" My father's voice roared, deep and furious. "We need to talk." Talk. I knew what talk meant in his language. It meant yelling, intimidation, making me feel small again. The knocking turned into pounding. My heart hammered against my ribs. Then came my mother's voice, sharp and pleading. "Do you realize what you've done? You've ruined us. People from the church are calling me nonstop. Your aunt refuses to speak to me. You're tearing this family apart." Tearing the family apart. Tearing. As if it wasn't already fractured long before this. I stayed frozen, my back pressed against the wall, my breath coming in shallow gasps. After what felt like forever, the pounding stopped. Silence hung in the air, heavy and unnatural. And then my phone buzzed. A new voicemail. It was my sister, her voice ragged and frantic. "If you don't take this down, Dad says he's going to make sure you regret it. Just, please, don't make this worse." My hands trembled as I held the phone. The threats were becoming sharper, more dangerous. But at the same time, the support from strangers was becoming louder too. For every family member who tried to silence me, there were 10 people online telling me, "Don't back down. You're finally free. You're finally being heard." That night, I sat in my dark room, watching the comment count tick higher and higher. The photo had taken on a life of its own. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about everyone who had been made to feel invisible. And that's when I realized something. If I backed down now, if I let my family bully me into silence, it wouldn't just be my story that died. It would be all of ours. The next knock at my door wouldn't scare me. Not anymore. By the next morning, I knew hiding in silence wasn't going to work anymore. The article had spread further than I'd ever imagined. Bigger outlets were picking it up, rewriting the story with headlines like, "Daughter exposes family after being excluded from photo." My face was everywhere, and the more people saw it, the more the pressure built, not just on me, but on my parents. They weren't taking it well. At 8:17 a.m., my phone buzzed with a new message from my dad. "You have 1 hour to delete everything. After that, don't even think about calling yourself our daughter." I stared at it for a long time. Maybe the old me would have cried, begged, promised to make it right, but not anymore. This time, I opened my notes app, typed out something raw, and pressed post. My parents told me I didn't deserve to be in the family photo. I stayed quiet for years, but silence only protects the people who hurt you. I'm done being silent. I hit publish and set my phone down. My hands were shaking, but for once, it wasn't out of fear. It was adrenaline. Within minutes, the post exploded. Thousands of likes, comments pouring in, people writing, "You're so strong. Thank you for saying what so many of us can't. This isn't just your story, it's ours too." And then, the real blow came for my family. A local TV station reached out. They wanted to do a short segment about it. About me. About them. When the piece aired that night, it wasn't just my voice reading my words. It was strangers analyzing their cruelty, journalists asking why parents would humiliate their own child. That's when my phone lit up with a furious string of calls. First my mom, then my sister, then my dad. Over and over. When I didn't answer, the messages followed. "Mom, do you have any idea what you've done? The neighbors are gossiping. I couldn't even show my face at the store. Dad, you think the internet will love you forever? Wait until they turn on you. Don't come crawling back when you're alone." And then one more, short and chilling. "You don't know what you've started." That one sat heavy in my chest, but even as my family unraveled, strangers rallied. People were sending me their own photos, family moments, where they'd been cut out, ignored, pushed aside. It wasn't just a story anymore. It was a movement. And deep down, I knew something was coming. My parents weren't the kind of people to back down quietly. If they felt like the world was slipping out of their control, they'd try to grab it back. By any means necessary. I knew it was coming. When the story reached national news outlets, my parents couldn't stay silent any longer. They hated losing control too much. Sure enough, one evening, a video appeared on Facebook. My mom and dad, sitting stiffly in the living room, the good china displayed behind them like props. My father's voice was low, rehearsed, dripping with false authority. "We love our daughter, but she has chosen to twist private family matters into lies. She's seeking attention. We ask that people respect our privacy during this difficult time." My stomach turned as I watched. Privacy? After years of humiliation? After telling me, to my face, that I didn't deserve to be in a family photo? And then, almost perfectly timed, the internet did what it does best. It dug deeper. Old neighbors, childhood friends, even distant relatives. They began sharing their own stories of how my parents had treated me or others. The comments beneath their video flooded in fast. "You can't gaslight the whole world. This is exactly what abusers say when they get caught. We believe her." Their attempt to reclaim control had backfired spectacularly. But the real turning point came the following weekend. A community organization reached out and invited me to speak at an event about resilience and family trauma. Standing on that small stage, microphone trembling in my hand, I looked out at the faces watching me, not with judgment, but with compassion. And for the first time, I said the words out loud. My parents told me I didn't deserve to be in the family photo. But the truth is, I never stopped being part of something bigger. I belong here with people who see me. Applause broke out. My throat tightened, but I kept talking. Afterward, someone handed me a framed picture, a group shot from the event me, surrounded by strangers who had chosen to stand with me. Smiling, present, unashamed. That night, I posted it with a caption, "Here's the family photo I always wanted." It went viral instantly, thousands of shares. People editing the picture, adding themselves to it digitally, creating an endless collage of belonging. And then, almost poetically, silence from my parents. No more threats, no more posts, just silence. I don't know if it was shame or fear or the realization that they couldn't control the narrative anymore. But it didn't matter. For once, the silence felt freeing. I had my photo, my story, my truth, and this time no one could erase me from it.